Hey everyone, welcome to this session. And in this video, we are going to see how we can reverse the order of words in a sentence, not the letters, just the word order using JavaScript. Alright, so for example, let's say if you have this input, the sky is blue, then the output should be blue is sky the. Okay, so we are only reversing the word order and not each and every character. Alright, and let's say if we have another example wherein we have a lot of leading and trailing spaces, and let's say if there are more space or tabs in between the words in the sentence, then that should also get removed. So we are always expecting a cleaner output with the reverse order of the words. All right, so these are the sequence of steps that we are going to follow while we write the logic for this particular requirement. So the first one is trimming the sentence to remove any leading or trailing spaces. So if you see this example 2, here we have a lot of leading and trailing space, as in the spaces that you see in the starting and the end of the sentence. So first we have to clean that up. For that, we are going to use the trim function. All right. After that, we are going to split this particular sentence, or you can say input, into an array of words. And when we use the split function, we have to give a separator, as in what is the separator of the words which is there in the sentence. All right. And for that, we are going to use a regex expression. And the reason why we are going to use a regex expression is because there could be multiple spaces in between, right? So if you just split this particular string and if you just hard code one single space, you wouldn't know, right, how there could be many other spaces or tabs in between. So for that, we are going to use regex expression. Don't worry about it, we'll discuss more on this when we write the code. And once we get the array of the words out of this string, we are just going to use the reverse method of array, which is going to flip the order of all the words in the array. And once we have that, we are just going to join them back into a sentence using the join method. So don't worry about it, we are going to discuss each and every step while we start writing the code. So let's just start. So first, let us create a variable, and we will write a function, and whatever the return value of that function is, we are going to assign that value to a variable. So I'm going to declare a variable reversed string, and then we are going to write a function. And in the function, we need one parameter, right? Because we would need the input, as in whatever the sentence is to be reversed, like the word order, that input we have to take as a parameter. So once we have this, the first step that we have written is trim the sentence to remove leading and trailing spaces. Okay, so let's just do this one first. So I am going to take another variable reverse string, and I'm going to store it inside this. So the input is this s, so s dot trim, and we will do everything step by step. So let's just first take an example and keep on checking that what is the output of this. And here I'm going to return this string, and then let's just call this function. So this function is here. Now I'm going to call this function so that we can keep on checking the output. So I'm just going to log it, console.log, and then I will call this function. We will just pass this variable, and it is expecting one input, right? In the input, I'm going to give the first one. So let's say this one. So let's just take this one because we are applying trim, so that you will be able to see that the leading and the trailing space is gone now. So I'm going to keep this sentence over here. Okay, and let's just save this, and I'm going to run this now. So now if you see, the leading and the trailing space is gone, right? But we still haven't received the final output because we didn't do anything, right? We have only trimmed the additional spaces that we have at the starting and the end. Now let's just do the other part. Split it using a regex to clean up extra spaces. Okay, so what if I use the split without using the regex expression? What happens is you have to manually give the separator. So for example, let's say we can write it here itself. So if I use split, and let's say I know that if there is one additional space in between, I will give it something like this. So it is going to split the words using this one additional space as a separator. But let's say if there are a lot of spaces in between, right? So see, there are three spaces here and we only need one, correct? And here also there are three spaces and we only need one, correct? So this will work if only there is there is only one space in between. But if there are a lot of spaces, tabs, and any other separators, then this is not going to work. So that is why we are going to use the regex expression. So here we'll give something like this, and then this, and we don't need this inverted comma here. So here this backslash s means that even if there are multiple spaces in between, it is still going to consider that as one single separator, and plus is like, if there is like, one or more, then it is still going to treat that as one single separator. So let me write the explanation for the regex here. So this means that even if there are multiple spaces, it is still going to treat them as one. Okay. So we are good with this one. Now let's move on to the next step. So the next step is reversing the array of words. So we are simply going to use the reverse method. Reverse, and then so first, before we use reverse, let's just check the output. Now you see the split has happened and it has taken any additional spaces as separator. All right. And then it has given us the array of the words. Now all we have to do is we have to reverse the order. Okay. So here what we'll do is we are just going to use the reverse method. And if I save this and let's just run this again. Now if you see, the order of the words has been reversed, right? So here the sky is blue. Now here it is blue is sky the. So the reverse has already happened, but we don't need the output like this, right? We need the output in a string format, sentence format. So for that, what we are going to do is we are going to use the join method. So here dot join, and what are we going to use as a separator in order to join the sentences? One single space, right? So one single space. Let's save this, and now let's just go ahead and run this. So now you see blue is sky the. We got the desired output. Okay, so this is how. So even if there is, let's say there is no space, so this was with space, but if let's say there is no space, there is no additional space, right, in the starting, end, or in the middle, this is still going to work. So if I save this, so you see, we got the desired output. All right. So these are some functions that you have to remember. So we can always use trim in order to remove all the leading and trailing spaces, as in like, the space that you have in the starting and the end. But you also have to take care of any additional space or tabs or any white spaces that are there in between the words. So in order to remove that, we used this regex expression. All right. And here I've written the meaning of this. So by this, we mean that if there is any white space character, including spaces, tab, etc., if there is anything, it is going to treat that as one single separator. And plus simply means one or more. So even if there are multiple spaces between words, it will treat them as one single separator. All right. So we are splitting the, so initially we took the string, right? The input is a sentence, right? So in that string sentence, we have trimmed all the leading and trailing spaces, and then we are converting that into an array of words, right? But in order to convert that, we have to give the separator, right? What is the separator that we are using? So here we could have not given a single space as the separator, because we observed that in between words there could be multiple spaces. That is why in the separator we used regex expression, right? So that if there are multiple spaces, it can remove that. And then once we got the array, we are just reversing the order of the elements that are there inside the array. So once we reverse the order, the next thing that we did is we joined all the words using a separator, which is a single space. So we got the output, like the desired output, right? So this is a very simple example, but it becomes very tricky when these kind of questions are asked in interview and you have to write code for this. So you have to be very mindful about these kind of scenarios, as in like, the space one that we discussed. So I hope you liked the session, and if there are any additional questions, you can just drop them in the comment section. And thank you for watching. I'll see you in the next one.